Doing well. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. I hope you guys are doing well. I was watching my good brothers I respect so much, on the Hardly Initiated podcast, and they were having a really interesting conversation with another brother about whether or not men should be okay with going 50-50 in their relationships. They were talking about who should be paying the bills. And the brother on there seemed to feel pretty strongly that men should pay all the bills. And I'm going to say, I can pay all the bills in my house, and that's something that I don't mind doing. But there's a lot to the debate that I think is kind of being missed. And as you guys may know, when I was on the faculty at Syracuse University, I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking, where I deeply explored the relationship between relationships and money. And what I'm going to do today is give you all some perspective, just give you some financial science. And as you know, my wife is a relationship therapist, and just kind of give you some perspective on this whole 50-50 conversation, so that as you make your decisions, you'll make the right one that works for you. Now, first off, I'm going to ask you, could you do me a quick favor, sound check? Give me a yes if you can hear me. Give me a yes in the chat. Let me know you can hear me. Shout out the name of your city. Shout out the name of your business. Put your B1s in the chat. And we're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hello to everybody. Chris Goodjoin, I see you. Tremel, Lewis Conyer, Just Blaze, I see you. What's up to everybody on TikTok? My TikTok is Boyce Watkins. Just be mindful of the hundreds of fake accounts out here, apparently, that pretend to be me, that will go into your DM, and I ain't sliding in nobody's DM except my wife's, and I slide into her DM as much as I can, but the rest of y'all, I won't be sliding into your DM. So if somebody shows up pretending to be me, just know that it's not me. Also, could you please do me a favor, and let's help the algorithm. If you could, please hit that thumbs up button. Thumbs up. Make sure you share, subscribe, all that good stuff. That really helps the channel. And also, don't forget, this podcast is on Spotify, and I want to appreciate all of you who back up what we're doing in the Black Business School, stuff like that. All right, so let's hop into this conversation. How many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you have been sort of paying attention to the back and forth conversations on relationships between men and women, particularly the financial side of it? There's a lot of financial conversations with women saying, I expect a man to make a certain amount of money, and men saying that all these women are gold diggers. And then you have the 50-50 conversation in relationships, and people ask all the time, when I give speeches, they say, who should be paying all the bills, or who should you have joint checking accounts or separate checking accounts, and a lot of questions like that. And I've thought about this stuff a lot. As I mentioned, I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking on the topic, which if you go to drboycebooks.com, you can look it up, or you can find it on Amazon and Audible. And there's a lot of conversation around money. And so I thought that I would give you some points of view, some facts to know and understand, to help you have this debate with yourself. Because the first thing I want us to agree on is that there's no one size fits all for this conversation. Like, can we agree on that? Can we agree that there's no simple answer to this very complex issue, especially if you're Black? Give me a yes if you agree and you understand that if a person gives you a perspective, that does not have to be your perspective. Their point of view does not have to be your point of view. Internet influencers ain't nothing but influencers. And the thing is, they shouldn't be influencing shit in your house. Seriously, they can maybe be advisors. They can share a perspective or a point of view. But the idea of somebody influencing you, somebody that you don't even know, somebody on a YouTube channel telling you how to live your life, I do not agree with that. Don't even let me do that, please. Please, only allow me to advise you if you think that my advice helps you to achieve a goal that's important to you. Okay, can we agree on that? Right. So I say everything here with as much humility as possible. I wouldn't call myself a humble guy, but at the same time, I'm very confident. I like to believe I'm not arrogant, though. I don't want to be arrogant, but I am really confident. But at the same time, I humbly submit that you do not take my advice if it does not work for you. However, I think the perspective can help. I understand a lot about money. I pretty much have my whole doctorate is in money. So I pay attention to when people start when you use the word money or you talk about investing or whatever, it triggers a lot of thoughts in me that go back 30 years of teaching. I started taught my first college class in 1993. So I've been thinking about this stuff for a long time on a real deep level. So first off, let's start with this thing. Okay, first thing I want to say is that I'm very sad and by all the conflict that kind of occurs over this, right? I don't like all the name calling. I don't like all the, oh, you a simp and you a this and you a that. And I know, and I've even had guys call me simp because I love my wife, but I don't give a damn. Like a real man don't care what simps have to say about him. Maybe they're jealous, maybe they're insecure, whatever, right? The fact that you're sitting around gossiping about another man's relationship and you don't even know that man, that right there says you probably ain't got nothing going on worth of paying attention to. So truth be told, whenever just so people know, when you do videos about me, just know they're not getting watched. I'm not watching them. Kevin Samuels did a whole show about me, and I didn't even dislike Kevin. We didn't have a beef or nothing, but he did a whole show about me, and he was actually supportive of me. But I only watched like 60 seconds of it, and then I got bored. I just don't. Opinions are abundant. Everybody's got one, right? So I was like, oh, he's a nice guy. He seems smart. It's nice, whatever, right? But the thing about it is, at the end of the day, you can't worry about what people think. You got to live your purpose, man. Seriously. So when you go into this conversation, I'm really disappointed by the fact that it's sparking what I consider to be a gender war between black men and black women. And I think that that's absolutely something that you should rally against right now. In fact, I hope I can get you to agree with me. Can we put a yes in the chat if our goal is to get along with each other? Can we at least try that? Can we, as black men and black women, make a solemn pledge to say that I'm going to do my best as a man to get along with the black woman and to support her as much as I can? Can black women, can y'all just agree that I'm gonna do everything I can to get along with and support black men, and I'm gonna try to ignore the dusties. I'm not gonna let the hood rats throw me off my purpose. I'm not gonna let the 304s mess with me. 304, I did not know that, but 304 spells hoe upside down on a pager. So that's like an old school term, 304s, but apparently they're bringing that back. I'm not gonna let the 304s mess me up. I'm not gonna let the Suki Hondas throw me off. Same thing with women. You're not gonna let disrespectful men cause you to have a disrespect for black men. Disrespectful men should not make you into a disrespectful woman. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. And this is where I start weeding out the weak people. This is where I start weeding out the people whose mental health isn't quite right, because I think that this is a thing that's where it's sort of battle of the fittest, right? The black people that can really stick it out in this thing, they can really love each other through all the madness, are the ones who are the most mentally tough, the most focused, the most committed to things like the family and the community and all that. A lot of people can't really do that, right? So I get it when people get mad at what I say, but I will don't waste your energy, because I can't really respond to your feelings. I can't let my facts be distorted by your feelings. So as we move on with this conversation, I encourage you to sort of make some basic resolutions that just say, look, I love my community. I love the black woman. I love the black man. I love the black family. I want black people to win. We need family in order to be successful. That's absolutely critical. Okay. So with that said, let me add some perspective on this 50-50 conversation. So when I was watching the Hardly Initiated podcast, which, man, I love the podcast. That's a good one. There's another one that I was on it. I think it's I want to say Tell It Like It Is, but that's not what it is. It's I Never Knew. I think I Never Knew TV. That's another great podcast. I talked to that brother. I like him a lot because he was super smart. I like people that just ask intelligent questions. I don't do a lot of podcast interviews, but those were a couple that I did, and I was very happy to do those. And I'll tell you what, they were talking to a guy who seemed to have strong feelings about the 50-50 conversation. He seemed to feel that that's highly inappropriate. He seemed to feel, and he has a right to his opinion, that men who don't do that are weak or sick or things like that. And if you are a man and you're not in a position to provide 100% of all the finances in the family, then it almost seemed to suggest that he felt like something was wrong with you. I can't say I agree with that assessment, only because I know the data, right? So here's the data. Here's the deal. His perspective is a little bit could be considered a little distorted, because remember, the guy who was saying this is an internet influencer. And if he has a brand on the internet, he's been able to monetize that brand on some level, chances are that his income is 2 to 3, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times higher than the average black man who's got a regular job working at UPS, FedEx, McDonald's, wherever, right? Even middle management positions, even somebody who works at General Electric with a master's degree probably doesn't make as much money as a lot of internet influencers. I have seen, just the fact. I mean, I've been doing stuff on the internet for a long time. I personally have made millions of dollars. I'm not ashamed to say that. And the reality is that our truth is different from everybody else's truth. So the idea of a man that's doing that well, sort of unambiguously judging the economic choices of a man who may never do that well, creates a really slippery slope in terms of the amount of pressure that you put on men to perform at a certain level. Here's the deal. The black man in America has always been the most economically marginalized group of people in this country. The black man is the most unemployed. The black man makes the least amount of money on these jobs, even when he's doing everything right, even when he's working his butt off. The black man is the one who gets fired on his day off. Last hired, first fired. Y'all know what it is. So to really just sort of blanketly judge black men based on their ability to provide economically is, it on the surface in the beginning, kind of patently unfair, right? So I think that this has to be a very careful conversation, because you cannot have this conversation without providing the context of what black men are dealing with and what they're going through. Now, one thing I'll say on the other side of that, though, is that I'm a mathematician. I believe in solutions. In mathematics, we can't cry about a problem. We solve the problem, right? We can't just sit and bitch and moan about a problem. We got to get to the chalkboard and come up with a way to figure it out. Do you understand? So in fact, all the years I taught math at the University of Kentucky, never once did I solve a math problem by crying about it. So as I mentioned, all the blatant problems of racism and the challenges the black men go through, I don't encourage you to allow that to just stop you from doing your best or stop you from finding a workaround. But also, I think it's important to understand that the challenges of the black man are different from the challenges of the black woman. Like my wife, I'll use myself as an example. My wife has a job at a university that hires hundreds of professors. Not one of the professors that they've hired is an African-American male. Not one. Not one. And African-American males have applied for the job, but they just did not get the job. This is indicative of a problem that goes on nationwide. This is indicative of a problem that's existed in America since slavery. The woman always had an easier time into Massa's big house than the black man did. The black man is more likely to be the field Negro. I'm the field Negro of our family. My wife and I both have PhDs, so we have a lot of education, but I'm the field Negro. If I went to her job and applied to work there, even though I was trained by the best, my skill is impeccable when it comes to finance. I was on top of my field. I was the only African-American on the planet to get a PhD in finance in the year 2002. I still would not get that job because they don't like to hire black people like me. Do you understand? Now I know I'm a little different. I'm a radical guy and I push the issue, but anything that I say, I can back it up with logic, right? But I don't live in the world that supports my ideology, so I have to live with that. I have to deal with that. What's the solution? Well, she goes to work every day and she does her job, her business part-time. I'm a full-time independent entrepreneur, right? I had to find my own way to success, prosperity, and financial security that was independent of the system that does not like men like me. Okay. And now here's the thing though. Not every man can figure it out like that. Not every man has the same drive and energy and everything else. Right. And so different people have different ways of sort of coping and responding to this. But I think that it's very important when we talk about what men are supposed to do financially, that we consider what men are dealing with and the height of the problems that they have to solve. Okay. Now I'm going to move on. I'm going to hit a couple of key issues on this, and I hope this debate and this conversation will help you. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to confuse you. I'm going to warn you right now. I'm going to confuse you because I'm going to jump back and forth from both sides of the debate because I don't think there's a yes or no, right or wrong. I just want you to understand it and sort of see the bigger picture so you can make the best decision for you. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, we have a social media platform that is B1 only. It's called B1 Nation. The URL is b1nation.us. You can go to b1nation.us. I'm doing a financial consciousness boot camp that starts January 1st on B1 Nation. You're welcome to join. All you have to do is go to Dr. Boyce Books and get a copy of the book that we're going to use. The book is called 30 Days to Wealth and Power. It's a reflective journal that's designed to elevate your economic consciousness and understanding where you are financially. It's the first time I've ever done it. We're going to meet. It's 7 days a week at 10 a.m. for 30 straight days, no exception. And because it takes 30 days to form a new habit, I want you to elevate your financial habits. I want you out of this mess. I think over 60% of Americans don't have $500 for an emergency expense. I want you and your kids out of that. We climbing up out the mud, people. So go to drboycebooks.com, hit the search box at the top, type 30 days in. You can get the workbook there. Even the e-copy, that's fine. It's cheaper, right? Because I think we actually sold out of the physical copies. But if you have the book, then we will send you a link to join the class. We start January 1st. We're going to get it. All right. So here is, okay. So here are a couple factors that you got to consider in terms of the dating environment for Black men and Black women. Number one, there is an imbalance in the Black community between the number of eligible men and the number of eligible women. Part of the whole emergence of the class of men who form big platforms, pretty much demeaning women, unfortunately, and putting them in their place, and stuff like that, is driven by supply and demand. Mass incarceration caused a horrible imbalance between the number of marriage eligible men and marriage eligible women. By marriage eligible, that means willingness to get married and with the economic wherewithal to get married. Because, which I don't think anybody would disagree, marriage and family is a massive economic undertaking. And a man who's not prepared financially to do it isn't going to feel comfortable doing that. So because of this imbalance, it's affected the ecosystem. It's affected the things that women are willing to do to get a husband. It's affecting the standards that men are setting in order to consider even being someone's husband. And some men just don't want to do it. And I'm not knocking that. I think that's fine. But really, a lot of that is driven by the fact that there is an imbalance that works in the favor of men. I know somebody who had a singles mixer or speed dating or something, and she did it in Atlanta, and 27 women showed up, and there were only 3 men that were there. And one of the men was not that attractive. The other 2 men pretty much walked out of there with 5 or 6 phone numbers apiece, at least. Right. So a lot of these men are just sharing themselves. That's what it is. And it creates a lot of other, consequences like STDs and things like that. Like this is the reality that's out there. Men who have good jobs and have a little education kind of get swarmed on by lots of women who expect to have that one husband, and it just kind of creates this awkward balance, and that leads to all these conversations about polygamy, stuff like that. I'll let you have those conversations. I'm not here to jump into that debate today. The second element, the second variable that I think is important to consider is, and I heard the brother on the Hardly Initiated podcast when he was talking about about men not really knowing how to head a household and not knowing what to expect. Well, another consequence of mass incarceration is that there is a massive fatherlessness problem in the Black community. The number of children raised in single parent households is astronomical in the Black community. It's well over 70%. I think about 76% last I heard. I think it's getting higher with every year, every generation. And there's no sign that that's really going to change. And so what that's really done is it's created this class of women who are very strong and able to kind of take charge because they don't feel that they can depend on the men around them to take charge. But then also you have the men who either let the women take charge, so they become men who don't have the ability to take charge, or you have men who do take charge who have conflicts with the women who are taking charge, right? So if I show up and I'm a healthy, strong man and I'm ready to take charge and I've been trained and I'm fully responsible, I was raised by a man. I was raised by a very strong man. So I'm ready to take charge. Well, you know what? My wife's family, they didn't, the male wasn't really in the household. So I had to kind of make it clear, like, look, I'm going to have to kind of be the alpha sometimes. Like, that's going to be a challenge. So we're going to have to really work on negotiating skills, because you're coming with a certain level of energy that you've had to have, but you don't really need that so much because I'm here and I'm able to handle some of that business. So what that requires actually is it requires a significant amount of negotiation in a relationship. It ain't easy. It requires really a reframing and a reshaping of Black relationships. It really does. And so what I would argue is that every type of energy, there's no such thing as good energy or bad energy. Most of the time, in my opinion, there's just weak energy and powerful energy. So for example, think about squeezing the trigger on a gun. That's energy, but that's not good energy or bad energy. It depends on what you're doing with the gun. Depends on who you're aiming the gun at, right? Or fire is energy. Well, the energy in fire can be good if it's cooking food and keeping people warm. It can be bad if it's burning your house down. Or the energy in a rocket. A rocket has lots of energy. The energy is great if it's controlled and managed and targeted, but it's bad if it's out of control and it blows up the rocket. So effectively, that energy that the so-called strong Black woman has, that ability to kind of take charge and stuff like that, I have personally found that can make a woman into an awesome teammate. And I don't think that a man is necessarily weak or bad or vulnerable when he's able to adequately partner with a quote unquote strong Black woman that will also be a great partner with him in this terribly difficult experience of being a Black man in America. I think that woman that can go to battle with you, that will fight for you, that'll have your back, can be a great asset for you, right? But it depends on who the person is. It depends on the situation. But I think that what would be much more difficult is to ask her to sort of put all that energy to the side and not be who she is, not be the person that wants to get up and go to work and handle business, and somehow try to make her into something that she's not. I don't think that works. I don't think you can put those genies back in the bottle per se. And I think that it does become kind of confusing. I think everybody's confused about gender roles. I really do. I think that men don't really know, like, okay, should I do this or not do this? Am I going too far or not far enough? And it's further confused. Pay attention now to what's happening in media. If you look in media, you see men getting sued 20 years later because of some sort of time where they maybe hit on a woman or said something to her and it was defined as being inappropriate, right? So a lot of men, I know men that go to work and they're afraid to even talk to women that on the job because they don't want their words to be misinterpreted as some type of sexual harassment. So I think men and women are very, very confused. That's my point. I think it's a very confusing time for people and really difficult. And I think it's even more confusing for men when you did not have a father to guide you. Right. When I was telling you all about when I got my first job at Syracuse University and I was 30 years old and I was making over 100,000 a year. And I was done with school. I was ready to go and live my life. And my father told me not to date any women on that campus. He explained to me, like, what happens, like if she decides that she doesn't like the fact that you were going out with her or that you asked her out or whatever, and she tells HR, they're going to interpret it however they want to interpret it. Next thing you know, your Black ass will be fired. So I knew this, and I learned this from my dad. I learned sexual discipline from my father, right? So if I did not have my father, then maybe I would have been confused. Maybe I would have made certain mistakes. So I think that the missing father really throws a big wrinkle in the Black family on the male and the female perspective. And then you get into these big debates about, the 50-50 stuff and all this other stuff. I'm going to say this. When you talk about paying the bills, first off, it's not as if you have to have either 50-50 or 100-0. You can have different ratios, right? You can have a scenario where maybe in order to feel more masculine in the relationship, maybe you do 70% of the bills and let your wife help out. You're the majority payer of the bills. I can tell you in our house, I don't really like to do a lot of the things that my wife does. Like, she cooks every day. She cooks really good. And I don't cook shit. I can't cook. Like, if I cook oatmeal for the family, like, we might all get sick and die that day. So I don't cook. I don't want to cook. I don't want to cook. I don't care if the house is clean or dirty. Just a lot of stuff that might be defined as if we had a newborn baby, I wouldn't want to change diapers. I'm gonna be honest with you. So does that mean that I am a bad husband because I won't do those things? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It just means I'm being myself. But maybe there's some other way I can compensate. So what I say to my wife is I say, look, these are certain things. There's certain things I will not do, but I know how to go out and make money. So You can have whatever you want. Like you can go in my bank account and get whatever you need to pay for whatever you want. And that's kind of a way to compensate for that. But it's not as if we ever sat down and said, okay, we're going to be 50-50 or whatever. It might be like, okay, you pay these three tiny bills. I'll pay the big bills. I'll pay the mortgage. I'll pay the car notes. I'll pay the whatever, right? So you can make your own deal, right? You can negotiate your own situation. And one thing I would definitely say is don't let an internet influencer influence those negotiations. I think that it depends. It depends on how well you're doing financially. Maybe it depends on your view of relationships, right? Like maybe you are going to marry a woman who or date a woman who thinks that a man should pay for everything. You could probably find that out in advance, right? This is why you communicate. This is why you talk to each other and you say, okay, now what do you expect me to do? And the reality is that your ability to fulfill a certain financial expectation is not just going to vary based on your economic situation. It will vary based on your stage in life. So let's look at it from the woman's perspective. If I'm a woman and I expect a man to give me to pay 100% of everything, there is nothing wrong with that at all. Seriously. Let's just be clear. Look, if you're a woman and you say this and you say it online, you are going to have guys in the chat saying you're a gold digger, you're this and you're that. Why would you even pay attention to men that you don't even want anyway, right? These guys clearly can't afford to be with you. So they're mad about it because they're just mad. They're mad at their baby mama or something, right? So you can ignore that, right? But so if I'm a woman and I feel like, you know what, the man should pay for everything, well, then that means I can only look at and appeal to certain kinds of men. So what am I going to look for? Maybe I'm going to look for a man who knows how to make money. That's a given, right? But what am I going to do to be able to compete with other women and attract a man like that, right? Because I have to go in understanding that man who makes six figures or $250,000 a year is going to be much rarer. It's like looking for the guy that's over six. All the women want a man that's over 6 feet tall. They don't understand most men ain't 6 feet tall, right? So the question then becomes, do you have whatever it takes to attract the man who is in that rare space where you're going to have a whole lot more competition? And is that trade-off really worth it for you? And then also, maybe what else am I going to do? Maybe I look for a man who has certain traditional values, who expects to pay all these bills. So he has to be a generous man. He can't be a man who is expecting his wife to be a 50-50 partner, right? Maybe it also means that if I get with a man like that, I've got to figure out where I am going to make a contribution. Maybe looking cute is enough for some men. I don't think it is. I honestly don't know. I can say this as a man I had plenty of money when I met my wife, but I really, I didn't mind paying all the bills. That's fine, but I'd be, sort of looking like, okay, well, what are you giving me that's making me want to do all this, right? Like, looking cute. I'm gonna tell you, when you deal with a grown man like over 35 or 40, there's cute girls everywhere. I mean, really, there's so many beautiful black women are so pretty. There's so many women. They know how to wear the right outfits. They got the nice booties and all that. Like that's everywhere. My wife separated herself, not intentionally. She just was being herself, but there's other things about her that I appreciate, right? I like the fact that she has a PhD like me. I like the fact that she works hard like I do. I like the fact that if things go bad for me, she has my back. But that's a unique thing. That's a unique thing, right? Some people maybe want something different, but I really think you have to consider, like, what am I really going to bring to the table other than trying to look cute? Because there's a lot of cute girls out here. There's a lot of cute girls that know how to have sex. The other thing too is maybe if I'm 30 something, I'm going to maybe look for an older man, because men tend to be more financially successful as they get older. The money that I had at 45 was not the money I had at 35. And the money I had at 35 was not the money I had at 25. So if I'm a 25-year-old guy in grad school, struggling, barely paying the rent, can't even afford my car note, none of that. I mean, literally, like I tutored people for like $10 an hour, and I would be so happy when I had like 2 clients because I would have enough money to like buy groceries that day. Like it was that deep. I'm not trying to come into a relationship where I gotta pay 100% of the bills. Hell no. I'm not marrying you. I'm not signing up for that. I can't handle that at 25. At 35, maybe I could, but I already had a wife. You know what my wife was? My wife was my business. I already had a spouse. So I was in a polygam. I would have been in a polygamous marriage because I was dedicating most of my extra money to my dream and to my business. Right at 45, well, I was a different man. Right, I had a little more. The 401k is stacked up. Had lots of assets. My business had evolved to a certain point. By that point, I had become Dr. Boyce Watkins, whatever that means. Right, I was a brand. I had books. I don't, so at that point, money's not a big deal anymore. So it's like, yeah, okay, I don't care. I'll pay 100%. We got married. It cost a lot of money. Our wedding was not cheap, but I don't even know how much it cost because it was like, okay, let's just pay it off. Right. So different stages. I really think, I know that people will always judge relationships where there's an age gap between the man and the woman, but y'all don't understand. If you read biology, there are natural reasons that younger women are attracted to older men, and there are natural reasons that older men are attracted to younger women. I know we have this modern society that defines, if you see a 25-year-old dating a 45-year-old, you're like, oh, that's creepy. That's bullshit, honestly, because there could be a reason why that younger woman wants the stability that an older man can provide. I can tell you that when I was 45, I chose not to date a 25-year-old. Don't get me wrong, I didn't want to. I could have, I just didn't want to. I wanted a woman my own age, but if I chose something different, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as everybody's an adult. So I would say that when you're talking about from the female side, if you want a man that's going to pay 100% of the bills, I think you have to realize you're going to have to pick a certain kind of guy. And then on top of that, when you're dealing with black men, we're in so many different financial situations and so many challenges. And here's another variable that people don't talk about. And actually, before we get into that, do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And also, don't forget this podcast is on Spotify. So if you look up my name on Spotify, you can find me there. In addition to that, if you want to, if you're trying to get your money up, you guys know I've studied finance. I'm good at that stuff. So I every now and then I'll text out a stock that I like, a stock that I want to buy. So feel free to text the word stock to 31996, and I'll send you out profit alerts every now and then, about twice a week or so, and help you in your investing journey. I want to see you do well. And in the Black Business School, we've helped millions of people. The brothers from the Hardly Initiated podcast actually came out of the Black Business School. So I was super proud to hear that they were doing so well. And that's who I'm actually talking about, an episode that I saw that I really liked. So I kind of wanted to contribute a little bit to this 50-50 debate based on what I wrote in that book, Financial Lovemaking. So here's another variable that you really got to really think about. And I'm so happy. Another guy, D1. I went to the Hardly Initiated podcast with D1. D1 was with me. We were just kicking it in Atlanta, and we went over there and I introduced all the brothers together. And I think D was actually on the Hardly Initiated podcast. And one thing that D1 is doing that makes me super happy is D1 has been confronting the hip hop culture. He's been confronting a lot of the negatives that have been sort of pushed onto our people through these white-owned networks like BET that tell you this is your culture, but then you have a culture that is unfortunately highly disrespectful toward women. Hip-hop is very disrespectful. I mean, if you remember, if you go back, when Snoop Dogg first got famous saying we don't love them hoes, and he went to an award show with two women on a leash, and he had a pimp Bishop Magic Don Juan right next to him. It's like there was a whole empire, a multi-billion-dollar empire built off of the extreme disrespect of women. That's why, for example, Diddy's not going to be the only guy to deal with these lawsuits. Snoop Dogg actually was dealing with a lawsuit not too long ago. It just got buried in the media. But there was a woman who claimed that Snoop Dogg assaulted her. I'm sure other women are going to come out. I'm sure Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, all those guys are being very quiet right now because they don't want to deal with the new environment that we're in, where suddenly all these chickens are coming home to roost. But the thing about it is that because you have men that were raised in this really toxic, hyper-masculine culture that was built on the disrespect of women, you just don't have a lot of men that understand the balance required for essential manhood. They don't understand that, that you can still be a strong man, but you have to really have some respect for women, some reverence for them, because they're the ones who gave you life, and they're the ones who are going to give life to your children, right? You can't live on. Your seed can't live on without some woman caring about you enough to carry your child and give birth to your child, nurture and raise your baby. So this disrespect of women that's all throughout hip hop, I think it's infected the mindset of a lot of young Black men. I really do. I think that and a lot of it comes from the fact that maybe for some of these guys, they did not have a father that would set an example for what a man is supposed to be, what a man's supposed to do. So they look to a rapper. and the rapper becomes the surrogate father. And rappers are terrible surrogate fathers because they don't give a shit about nobody. All they care about is the money, the liquor, the weed, the gun, the big booty hoe, or whatever. And they share this lifestyle, and guys get addicted to this lifestyle. And then some of them try to keep living that lifestyle into their 40s and 50s, but they neglect the importance of building family. So unfortunately, with, when you have these 50-50 conversations about who should pay for what and all this other stuff, it gets distorted even further by the fact that a lot of the men never really learned they never went through any sort of rite of passage on what it really means to be a man. If you want my 2 cents on what I believe it means to be a man, it definitely means that the people around you should be able to depend on you. Also, it means that the people around you, their lives should be made better because you're in it, right? When you have your funeral, when you die, I think that your goal should be to have a funeral where there are people there who say, my life was better because of this man. I know many people, for example, Robin Simpson in Houston. I talked about Robin Simpson, the sister who was stabbed 60 times in the face by her husband 3 weeks ago. She's part of the B1 community, by the way. She's a prominent member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She was the head social worker at LBJ Hospital in Houston. And her husband stabbed her 60 times in the face in front of her daughter, cut her heart out of her body, cut through her skull, and cut her brain out. Like, literally, this really happened. And I think about this, and I think about the amount of trauma that this poor little girl's going to have, how she's going to have an incredibly difficult time trusting men for the rest of her life. And just, the idea that this man, his masculinity was so distorted that because of whatever he was feeling, or I know he'd lost his job the previous year, he ends up going and doing this horrible thing that's going to end up affecting his family for the next 100 years. Like, literally 100 years from now, people will be telling the story about what he did in front of his daughter. Like, it's like a living nightmare. And it's the saddest thing in the world to me. And so to me, I believe that the role of a man is to do the exact opposite of that. Right? The exact opposite of that, right? So the same way he used his masculinity in such a horrible, destructive way. Robin Simpson's her name. Please look her up. She deserves your attention. If we can cry over George Floyd, y'all can fucking cry over a black woman who got chopped up in front of her husband, or in front of her daughter by her husband. I'm sorry. It drives me crazy that we'll get all upset about a George Floyd because white people told us to get sad about it, but you can't get sad about this black woman somehow because she didn't get killed by a cop. But guess what? The police were in the backyard because they didn't even come in the house. They didn't breach the house because there weren't enough cops on duty when it happened. So I think the Houston police need to answer some questions, and they need to release the 911 call, which they refuse to release because I think that they believe that it's going to open them up to liability. So please go Google this. Please go tell your friends. This is something that we need to talk about. Stop letting white people decide what conversations we're supposed to have. We need to have the conversations that need to be had without waiting for white daddy's permission. Seriously, this is every bit as serious to me as George Floyd. R.I.P. to George. R.I.P. to George, but I'm sorry, I can't cry for George Floyd and not cry for Robin Simpson. I don't even understand it. It makes no sense to me. So I don't take my cues from white media. I just don't. So anyway, let me finish this point though. So to me, when I think about a rampant abuse of divine masculinity, I think about things like the case of Robin Simpson, where this man had all the power. He could have the same energy that it took for him to chop his wife up in front of his daughter. This man could have used that same energy to elevate his wife in front of to praise his wife in front of his daughter, to elevate his daughter to heights that she could never go without her daddy. So it's the reckless abuse of masculinity. And just like when I told you guys in the beginning, when I told you energy isn't always good or bad on its own, energy becomes good or bad based on who's using that energy. Right. So the energy that it took for this man to go chop up Robin Simpson the way that he did, that is energy that could have been used for something positive. It could have been used to protect the family. It could have been used to elevate the family. It could have been used to earn the trust of the family the way the father usually receives it. Right. We look to daddy to have our back. We look to daddy to make our lives better. We don't look to daddy to turn on us like a crazed pit bull and do horrible things to my mama. So I would say to you that when you're talking about masculinity, I think hip hop is a gross abuse of the divine masculinity of the black male. It's a gross abuse and distortion of that masculinity. I think that we have let down our community. We've let down ourselves by allowing such toxic, horrific images of us as black men to be broadcast throughout the world. So this is one of the reasons why I back D1 to the end. This is the reason why I think that what he's doing with hip hop is absolutely appropriate. This is also why I believe that everyone in here should support D in what he's trying to do with the rappers. All right, so do me a favor, guys. Hit the thumbs up button. My wife is knocking on the door. Hey, babe, I'm doing a podcast. You need anything? Okay, well, next time if I don't open the door, you don't have to keep knocking. I love you. See, y'all see what I deal with? Y'all see what I have a sign on my door that says "Do not disturb." Why does she knock anyway? I'm saying, why? Lord, God. Anyway, all right. So let's keep going. All right, so hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And speaking of my lovely wife, that is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and I love and appreciate her. And she is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And she actually helped us start the financial therapy department in the Black Business School. And let me give you her website in case you want to go take a look at what she does. She actually sees she sees individuals, couples, and families and groups, and helps them sort of work through whatever their issues might be, or helps them to avoid having issues. So if you do get married or you have a relationship or whatever the case may be, and you want it to work, you'd be amazed at the tools they have in therapy that can help you. So feel free to go to her website. It's coachingwithdralicia.com. And also, if you'd like to get some free stuff from her, you can actually text the word wellness to 31996. Text wellness to 31996, and she can send you some links to some things that can help you, some resources. There's lots of stuff out there that can help you to grow and evolve. All right, so let's finish this conversation up. So we're talking about this whole thing about 50-50. Should men and women go 50-50 in relationships? And I think it's been made pretty clear that it's a personal decision, right? And it's also a decision that's contingent upon where you are in life. So we mentioned earlier that if I'm a woman and I'm looking for a man to pay 100% of the bills, first off, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with what you want, right? You just have to look for people that can actually provide it. And the people that can't provide it, or the ones who complain about it, are not for you, right? And like I said, an older man is more likely to be able to provide it. A man that's maybe more educated, maybe a man who is better at making money, right? Those types of men, maybe a man who's more traditional can provide those things and not have a problem with that. But you also have to be smart enough to know how to pick those men, right? A broke man or a man who was never trained on manhood may not make sense to him. Now, if you're a man and you're looking for, let's say you're looking for 50-50, let's say you're at a point where you're like, look, I don't want to pay all the bills. I don't want to do this. I think you have a right to expect that too. I don't think any influencer should have the ability to tell you that what you want is wrong. Right. So if you're a guy and you want the woman to pay 50-50, first off, we have to understand that some women don't want to do that. Right. Some women think that is weak and pathetic, and they just don't like it, and it makes them mad. And guess what? Those women are not for you. And that's okay. There are plenty of women out here. Let me just tell you about the Black woman. Let me just tell you like this. Look, the Black woman is living a dual reality when it comes to economics. Y'all understand what I'm saying? You know that on one hand, the lowest net worth in America is that of a single Black mother with children. She has the lowest median net worth in this country. For white women, it's like 48,000 or something. For Black women, it's like $5. 48,000, $5. That's the deal. So the single Black mother with kids, especially kids with a lot of baby daddies and all that, where you're not sort of, I'm not gonna say you're irresponsible with your seed, but you kind of, maybe haven't thought about how who you sleep with plays a big part in your economic outcomes, right? Maybe you haven't learned. Again, this is the missing father. Maybe you never learned to value your womb enough to understand that there needs to be a bar that men should have to jump in order to have access to your bedroom. So next thing you know, you got 3 baby daddies and ain't none of them worth shit. And so you and the kids are sitting there struggling, and your net worth is $5, and you're working 3 jobs and taking care of 3 kids by yourself. It's kind of tough, right? The other reality of the Black woman, though, is that the Black woman is the most educated person in America. They're the most educated group in the country. They in many cases, professional Black women have some of the highest incomes out here. A lot of them are single in their 30s and their 40s, which means they have a lot of excess income. So on that regard, when it comes to professionalism and income earning potential, Black women are better than almost anybody else. Black women, there are so many Black women who have, you think about it, like for example, every single Black woman I know from Spelman is a doctor, a lawyer, or a PhD. I kid you not. I know about 12 Black women from Spelman. Every single one of them is a doctor, a lawyer, or a PhD. That's just the reality. Give me a yes if you've seen this, if you noticed this phenomenon. Now, the challenge with that, though, the interesting thing, though, is that they have sort of mixed results when it comes to relationships, though, right? Because maybe, just like a lot of men do, you spent so much time learning how to be a high flyer at your corporate job that you didn't spend any time learning how to be a high flyer when it came to the ability to maintain a relationship with a man. That's just the truth. That's the truth. Because think about it, when you grew up, did your mama sit here and coach you on how to be a good wife and how to find the right man? No, she told you don't worry about boys, just do your homework and go to school, and so you can get a good job one day. And maybe she passed that trauma on to you, right? So that's a skill that maybe you didn't get. And I get it. I understand, right? Like I spent a lot of time learning how to do complex mathematics and program a computer, but I didn't spend time learning how to fix the house. So if the plumbing goes bad, I call the plumber. If the roof needs fixing, I'm not climbing on the roof. I got money. I could pay somebody to do it. One skill, and then we don't have time to learn another skill, right? So I believe that there are specific skills that women have, and I'm not just talking about sexual skills. I'm talking about specific skills that women carry that make them more likely to be somebody's wife. I do believe that. And I do think that if that's important to somebody, if that's important to you, you should take time to consciously learn those skills and not just assume that you'll have those skills just because you go to the gym and you could drop it like it's hot. I can tell you again, as a grown man, you can't really impress me. You're not going to get me to share my fortune with you because you have a nice booty. I'm too smart for that. You're not going to get me to give you access to my wealth just because you can do something magical and special in the bedroom. There's been there, done that, been around, I've seen it. You know what I mean? Right. So what tends to occur is that there are just these soft skills that come with, being somebody's spouse, being somebody's wife, right? So depending on what the goal is, I think that it's a matter of getting the skills that will help you achieve the goal. So it's almost like when I think about my wife, sometimes I feel bad. Sometimes I want to be, the macho man who can go fix stuff in the house. Well, now I got to go back to YouTube University and really sit and watch videos on how to fix things, right? And because I don't like that side of me. I don't like the fact that I can't fix things, or that I'm the professor who only knows how to do stuff on a laptop, but can't go and check on the water heater or unplug the toilet or whatever the problem is in the house. So I had to go sort of get more of those skills. Do you understand? Right. So I think that, again, this is a personal decision. I encourage you to go out and understand that learning is a lifelong process. And learning is not just something that you do for a job. A lot of you went to school so you could learn just enough to go get a job. And then you felt that once you got the job you wanted, it was time to stop learning. I'm going to disabuse that notion right now and tell you that is not true. Learning is something that you do to gain the skill to do anything that matters to you. Do you understand? Learning, if you want to learn, if you want to connect with your child and be a better parent, then go get online and learn how to be a damn better parent. If you want to learn how to be a better spouse, there's classes on that. You want to go get girls? Oh, they got training on that too. You want to figure out how to keep a man? Learn, go study that. Study those things. Right. I tell you, the best thing I did one time I had a bad relationship and it ended badly. And the girl, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. She didn't want me. And I was really sad. I was kind of heartbroken or whatever. Right. So I spent the whole week after the breakup doing nothing but Google searching and researching how to overcome a breakup. That's what I did. I got online. I searched how to get over a breakup. And I went down that rabbit hole and I started finding all these articles on relationships. And I learned so many interesting things. Did you know that who feels worse after a breakup is dependent upon who dumped who? So you may not even want to be with somebody, but if they dump you before you dump them, you're more likely to be sad because there's an abandonment that kind of kicks in when you're the person who got dumped, right? You just feel kind of mad and sad about it, right? And then there's other stuff, and they were saying 5 things you shouldn't do after a breakup. One of them was you because you're sad, you shouldn't call the person that just broke up with you. You got to call somebody else, right? And some other stuff, right? So I learned a lot, right? So I personally think that learning should be lifelong. I think you should learn the things that are going to matter in your life. If you want to make more money, learn how to do that. If you want to lose weight, learn how to do that. If you want to have better relationships, learn how to do that. And learn how to do it in a way that's going to be custom fit for what you're seeking to accomplish. So if I'm a man and I'm looking for a woman who's going to go 50-50 with me, first thing I would not do is get all too caught up in this idea that somehow that it's bad for women to have ambition and careers and shit like that. Because a woman who's ambitious, who has a career, is somebody who may not mind contributing to the household expenses. And 50, and you don't have to go straight 50-50. You can go 70-30. Maybe that'll make you feel a little more masculine or something like that. But at the same time, just know that sometimes there might be a trade-off, right? Maybe sometimes it means that you can't be the center of attention all the time. You can't always be the one who is always the person who gets the most support, and you don't support her. There may be times where you got to sit back and say, go baby, go do your thing. What can I do to help you? How can I support you? And the other thing too that's really important is I think that we forget that there are many, many ways to contribute to a relationship that go beyond money. That's a huge mistake. I find that so fascinating. Again, I'm an expert in money. I find it really fascinating that there are people who think that money is the most and the only way to contribute in a relationship. That is so untrue. That is so untrue. And, or the idea that because somebody has money, that makes them a great person to be in a relationship with. I know a lot of jerks that have plenty of money. And so if I don't have a lot of money, then I'm going to have to be honest about that. Okay, making money is not my thing, but what are some things I can bring to the table that are so valuable that they are things that money cannot buy? For example, if I can give you love, affection, attention, and support, those are things that money cannot buy. A rich jerk can't come in and be a better man than me because he might not bring that energy. He's going to bring some arrogance. Maybe he's going to be a prick. Maybe he's going to bring some heartbreak or whatever. No, maybe I'm going to bring some attention. I might bring some back-breaking sex. Maybe I'm going to bring some, I'm going to give you kisses every day. I'm going to learn how to cook breakfast, right? I think that there are lots of people who can appreciate lots of contributions to a relationship that don't just show up in the form of a dollar bill. And I think that it's hard. I think for black men, I think that black men should learn how to build wealth first off. I really think it is important for you, for your own self-esteem and your own self-worth, because there are some points where you really do need money in a relationship, right? So this whole idea of chasing behind the white man, begging him for jobs, that strategy does not work for us. Every single black male in America should learn how to start a business and be an investor and get into things like real estate, stuff like that, because the white man ain't got nothing for you. As long as you're trying to go beg him for a job, he will be the alpha, you will be the beta. Some men can't live like that. I don't encourage that at all. I would never want to live that way. I chose not to live that way. Okay. So that's a reality. So the money does matter, but at the same time though, there are so many things you can contribute that don't have anything to do with money. And there are a lot of women who are doing very well financially who aren't going to give you a hard time over that. Right. I think that there are women who want to see you just get up and work hard every day, who want to see you support them and work hard to maintain the household and bring other things to the relationship besides your money. Right. In fact, I would almost dare to argue this. Here's a point I want to make. This is a deep point, so I need y'all to pay attention on this. If money is the only variable that I'm competing with as a man, then I automatically am a white supremacist. If all I believe I can do is be the man with the most money, then I'm going to lose that game because nobody has more money than the white man in America. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying. There's no richer group of people on this planet than white males. White males are so rich in America that they can print money. Do you understand? So if all I think I can do is bring money to the table, that's all I got, I'm playing a game that's going to be hard for me to win. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like if I'm 5'8" and I try to I try to win by being the tallest man in the room, I'm not going to win. I shouldn't be playing basketball. Maybe I should be playing football instead, where being 5'8" is not a liability. It could be a strength if I have a strong center of gravity. Or if you're a fish, you shouldn't compete in a game where everybody else is a giraffe. And they're measuring people based on who the tallest person is in the room. So you're a really tall fish, so you're going to lose to the giraffe. No, I don't want to play that game. I want to play the game where the winner is the person who can stay underwater the longest. If I play that game, then guess what? I become the winner, and he becomes the loser. All the giraffes start losing. So if the white man is the giraffe and his money is the length of his neck, I'm not trying to compete to be the tallest giraffe. Yeah, I'm a pretty tall giraffe, but that's not the game I'm playing. I'm gonna be the lion. So we're gonna play a game. We're gonna compete based on who can climb trees. Lions can climb trees. I think they can. They're cats, right? Or who can roar the loudest, or who has the biggest mane. I only want to play in games. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying. Here's the key to overcoming white supremacy. One of the keys, anyway, is if you're gonna lose the game, don't participate. Don't play a game where you are destined to lose. Pick a game that is focused on your strengths. This is actually a business strategy. They call this monopolistic competition or product differentiation. That's what they call it. That's where, like, if I open up a hamburger joint, I'm not trying to go head to head with McDonald's. I can't. They got too much capital. They're too big. Their cost of goods is too low. I can't compete with them. They got a massive customer base. But if I create Boyce Burgers, Dr. Boyce Burgers, and they come with financial literacy training with them, right? Like, so you eat my burger, you'll be smarter after you eat my burger because you're also going to know how to do your taxes or something, like whatever, right? Then guess what? I don't have to compete with McDonald's anymore. I become the best on earth at what I do. That's why little things like when people say, like, be yourself and be the best version of yourself, I think that's really important. We got too many Black people out here trying to compete in the world by trying to be a cheap substitute for a white man. And that part of the reason you do that is because you're too scared to be yourself. And I used to feel that way too. I used to try to imitate what the white boys did or whatever, and I realized that was never going to work. So I said, instead of being a cheap substitute for a white man, I'm just going to be the best Boyce Watkins I can possibly be. And you know what? It's been smooth sailing ever since. I am the best on the fucking planet at what I do, which is to be Boyce Watkins. Can't nobody out here be Boyce Watkins better than Boyce Watkins, and that's good. Pick a game that is rigged for you to win, because y'all know the game is rigged. You know the system's rigged against you. You know that it's rigged in favor of certain other people. Well, then find a system that's rigged in your favor. That's what you do. So going back to the relationship analogy, here's an example. If there are women out there, for example, that maybe want tall guys, right? I don't want those. I never wanted those women. It's like, no, I don't want the women who want the tall guy, because then I'm always going to feel inferior. I want the woman who wants the smart guy. You understand? Because, I'm pretty smart. That's my strength, right? So I think that when you talk about contributing to relationships, you don't have to just contribute with money. And then on top of that, if you're a man, you're picking a woman, I think that really being thoughtful about what she values is important too. So if I'm chasing after this big booty gold digger and all she cares about is money, and I know that my money is the number one reason I'm attracting this woman, I'm setting myself up to be in a very difficult situation where I'm probably guaranteed to fail, because there's usually going to be some Arabian guy or some British guy that's got more money than me. But so instead, you pick a criteria that benefits you, something that leans in your favor, and you find other ways to contribute to the relationship that go beyond the size of the bank account. I think that's really important for Black people, because remember, as I mentioned to you all, because of things like mass incarceration, the Black economic situation has been distorted. The Black family has been thrown into disarray. Hip hop, built off of mass incarceration culture and problems in urban culture, led to a lot of dysfunction in terms of how Black men and Black women deal with each other. So we're going to have to sort of relearn what all that looks like. And I think one of the things you want to learn is to get rid of this whole Eurocentric approach to what it means to be together. I think that as a Black man, there are a million things I can do that are unique to me as a Black man that I can do for my wife that a white man cannot do. I have experiences and skills and perspectives and capabilities that most white men cannot match. So that's why I don't have to worry about my wife running off with Sideshow Bob because he's got a little bit of a bigger bank account. So that to me speaks to the fact that picking is a dynamic process. You've got to pick the right person, but you got to make sure the right person is picking you. Right? You have to like that person, but you got to make sure they also like you. You got to value what you see in them, but you got to make sure they value what they see in you. Don't pick somebody that loves you, not just somebody that tolerates you, right? And because when you pick people that tolerate you, then those are the people that dump you when you no longer are the person who gives them that thing that brought them to you in the first place. So that's my 2 cents on the whole 50-50 thing. I kind of think I don't think that it has to be a one size fits all. I don't think you're a simp if you go 50-50 with your woman. I also don't think you're a gold digger if you expect your partner to pay 100% of the bills. I think that you should, out of respect for yourself, make your own rules in your relationship, choose your own criteria based on what you believe, and then go out and find somebody who fits that criteria, because there is somebody out there for everybody. And don't pick people who are not for you. The people that won't be with you are not for you, but there's somebody out there who will be for you. And the sooner you can get past the people who are not for you, the sooner you can get to the people that are for you. You see, it's that simple, right? You know, see, it's like easy. It's not hard. It's not hard. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So, by the way, if you want to take a look at that book, Financial Lovemaking, feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. You can go there and take a look at that book. Also, my new book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, is out. You can find a copy there at drboycebooks.com. And Christmas is coming, so if you have kids and you want to get them prepared economically for the future, we have financial flashcards and workbooks for kids, so feel free to take a look at that. And also, this podcast is on Spotify and Apple, so feel free to go to Spotify, look up my name. Last but not least, if you want to receive profit alerts, I like to share stocks that I'm buying a couple times a week, as well as the $5 a day investing plan in the Black Business School that will take your family from poverty to wealth in less than a decade. Feel free to text the word stock to 31996. It's totally free. Text stock to 31996. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, please, and make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will check in with you guys a little bit later, and I hope you have a good night. I'll see you soon. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.